you're really tapping into a hyperdimensional physics that's very related to these other dimensions. And consciousness is, of course, the foundation, I think, of what all of space, time, matter is emanating from.
I mean, the first thing to do is kind of construct a cartography of these states, you know, a map of these dimensions, if you will. This is what teaches each and every one of you people out there what you really are.
If you can think of reality as a projection of the collective consciousness or the collective unconscious, and you can see how disconnected and messed up and locked in self-service and fear the human consciousness is at the moment.
Because that's what it's all about. They want us focusing on the fear.
When you get sick of trying to find the enemy and you realize that the enemy has been inside of you and it's your insecurities, they come from our own inability to take the responsibility.
We're looking for truth here. We're not on either side.
Hour number 2 on this special broadcast this February 9th, 2012. Our amazing guest, of course, is Stephen Sindoni. And a special thanks to all the subscribers out there. This next hour is just for you guys. And of course, our great live listeners too. If you can't subscribe, you can always tune in live. The live stream's always 100% free. But I want to get back into the topic with Stephen right now. Stephen, tell us, what was some of your experience like in this field and going to Mount Shasta? And then not only that, but stumbling across this Obama-Osama connection. I know you talked a little bit in the last hour about some of the tribulations, but do you want to pick it up from there?
I got to tell you, it wasn't easy being me when I was on the West Coast because there were constant surveillance, helicopters, and people taking shots at me or people trying to run me over. So it became very difficult. So my spiritual work became very much more important, and meeting Kenny and the spiritual people that I met there got me closer to that side. But I was convinced that my soul was now immortal because I realized I had been here before. And I firmly believe that I was a spiritual being having a physical existence in a three-dimensional reality, and I came back to finish my work. So it was then that I became the conscious observer and examined all the clues that I had been given in the present embodiment to have a better understanding of my true purpose in this life. And I began to look at it as though I had to understand duality and not take it personal. So I began remembering some of the worst scenarios and feelings, the pain, the sadness that I had, and I started to detach from it, to let it all go, because I realized these memories were opportunities that I created for myself to grow up and move out of the 3D. And in order for me to move forward to my personal ascension process, that I would have to erase this negative programming and detach myself from it completely.
That's what we have to do. Exactly. I completely agree with that. And we get stuck in that paradigm to where we have to focus on the negative and the wars and what's going on with Obama and what's going on with Syria, and are we going to invade Iran? And people live in fear. A good friend of mine called me up the other day. He said, Chris, I don't know what I'm going to do. He said, I'm worried because I have to pay $1,200 a month child support, and if these psychos go to war in Iran, then gas prices are going to go to $15 a gallon. Food's going to be outrageous. I'm not even going to be able to survive, much less pay my child support, and I'm going to be thrown in jail, et cetera, et cetera. And I told him, don't worry, just vibrate on a higher frequency, and they won't be able to affect you. None of that will matter once you're vibrating at that higher frequency. Now, this is what he told me, though. He says, I'm not into that new age hippy-dippy stuff. I've got to think about reality here. What do you say to those people?
Well, you really don't say much. I said to you earlier today, a man or woman convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. His journey, he's probably a newbie on his journey, and there's not much you can do because this earth that we're on is free will. And people are free to choose, make their choices. So he's going to make his choices, good, bad, or indifferent, either with your help or without your help. All you can do is try to be a way shower and be a guide and give him proper guidance and fellowship with your Christ-like higher self.
What if they don't know how to vibrate to a higher frequency?
Well, then they have to learn. I'll give you an example. I sent you a video that I did called Alfeggio frequencies earlier today.
Can you
anybody
repeat that?
can go on my YouTube site on Webflix.
Can you repeat that because you cut out?
solfeggio frequencies, SOLFEGGIO frequencies. You can Google that and my name on YouTube. And there's a video that I put out there giving you all the frequencies to elevate your DNA and to repair what it is that has been detached from your cord. So one of the first things I would tell you or anybody else, you need to regain your spiritual sovereignty, and it has to do with your higher frequencies. And these hidden ancient solfeggio frequencies are the key to you regaining the kingdom of heaven, so to speak. And that is going to be the first step in anyone's transformation process, is to repair their ruptured DNA.
Don't you have a website, StephenSindoni.com?
No, I have StephenSindoni.webs.com.
.webs.com, that's it. Okay,
right.
Okay, because I know earlier you gave out your YouTube, but you didn't give that one out.
Well, I have a number. At the end of the show, I'll go through, I've got about 5 or 6 that I'll share with people if they want to go to. But all the information is there, Chris. I put it out there because I realize that I'm a way shower and that there are people out there who are going to want to find fault with what I'm saying. But that's okay. I sleep well at night, and I have no problems in my own skin who I am. I have returned to my normal state of being, my Christ-like self. I'm very childlike. I set my intentions every day. I make my day. I let go of the emotional baggage that I was carrying from the past, just like you mentioned with your friend. And this allows me now to be the conscious observer to the experiences in everyday life. And that has allowed me to be outside of the box and be able to share these things with you because I'm not in the box. Mm-hmm. I am totally outside of the matrix, and that's why I see it for what it is, because I see it in Zen Buddhist time, as though it's in slow motion. It's hard to explain. And then when I see something, I get, if I'm reading something, someone's name or something, if they passed, for example, I get them coming through, give me information, letting me know what their story was. Now, a lot of times I don't ask for this information, but then when I go search it and research it, I found out that they're crying out for help because they want closure. So in a couple of minutes, I'll share some of why I'm saying that. But as I said,
let me jump in real quick and just say this. There's a lot of forces at work who try to keep you from vibrating on that higher frequency.
Because they're feeding off of the low frequency that you're putting out.
Right.
Well,
but that's my experience is that every time I vibrate higher and I seem to get attacked constantly. I mean, you read the blogs where we've been attacked over and over, our websites, our personal computers. I mean, it just doesn't stop. And it's like they're trying to take up all of our time fixing all the damage that they're doing. And of course, that naturally brings you to a lower frequency because everybody's human and we all get mad.
Well, you know what? That's what they want to do. They want to keep you in fear and get you mad. You have to see this as opportunity. Chris, I must have had about 40 different websites that the people have hacked into. That while I'm typing something, they'll erase the line. They'll change my password. I could tell you stories that go on and on. But I decided that I wasn't going to play anymore. I wasn't going to engage. I was not going to participate. And once I stopped participating, I was now back in control. I was able to connect then with my cellular memory of my multiple layers of my soul existence and realize that I had been here before many times, and I was able to see through my third eye all these events, and now I was better able to comprehend the lessons, the karma, and the programs that I had been accepted as dogma. And now I knew it was my opportunity to change that. And upon doing so, I was able to release all of that cellular caca, I will say that was old consciousness, and has allowed me to move on. And when I accepted this consciousness, I then realized that I was the co-creator with God and that everything was now possible. Because if I was right with God, Chris, then who could be against me?
Very true. That's the way I've seen it as well. As long as you're walking the path that the universe has put before you and that you're fulfilling your dharma and not falling into selfishness, materialism, all of the traps of this world, then you're basically untouchable. But I do have to say this. I mean, they've hacked the website for the past couple of weeks. Every time I remove a virus, another one pops on there. And what it does is it turns people off to coming to the website because they think they're going to get a virus.
Well, that's why I said to you, you can't play their game. It's like when I was growing up in the city. a guy would have the basketball there, and when it got dark, he'd come get the ball, and everybody look at each other like, what happened? Well, the game is over. Well, here's the analogy for that. If you're in a Windows-based world, they can, anytime they want, mess with your computers. You have to get on Linux, you have to get on Mac, you have to get on another program system that doesn't allow you to be interfered with. And when you do that, then you will control your own destiny with these people. You won't get frustrated anymore, and then you'll have solved the problem. But until you do that, every week, and I'll tell this to your viewers, every week a new virus goes out there. Developers go, they give you another antivirus. 2 days later, the hackers get it. They come up with something else, and it's a cat and mouse game. And every other day, there's a new virus, a new way to hack into your system to get into your back door. And the only way you're going to get around that is by getting away from a window-based, CIA, Men in Black-based system.
Something is definitely strange going on here. I was looking at the recording of the show, and at 58 minutes, which was right when I hit the music, the recording button magically stopped. Luckily, I caught it about 2 minutes after we came back from the break, so we only missed the music and about 2 minutes of it. But it just goes to show. I mean, now I'm stuck here monitoring the recording, making sure that this keeps going, and monitoring the stream. I mean, it's so overwhelming.
Well, we're about to go into some very difficult water, and what I'm about to share in a couple minutes, they're going to have a real big problem with. So they're going to do whatever they can to stop me from saying what I'm going to say, and that's okay because, as I told you earlier, the reason why I decided to do your show was that I read of your problems that you were having, and a friend of ours, a mutual friend whose name I won't mention here, had given my phone number to your wife, your dear wife, and when I looked into your show and I read, some of your situations, I call them challenges, I realized that I had to come on your show because I've been going through this for over a dozen years, and they wanted me to be underneath I-5 or underneath some road destitute or find me, dead from an overdose, and none of that happened. So as a result of that, I realized that for the grace of God, I was supposed to come on here with you tonight and share these things. And I really wanted to start with the spirituality to realize who I really am, because I've been here before. Many embodiments, and J.C. Brown, the fictitious alias, was really John Benjamin Body. And that embodiment led me to Mount Shasta to realize one of my layers. As a result of that, I've learned many more. And I've had a lot of spiritual entities come in to me. I have angels, I have spirit guides now that I wouldn't have got as a result of my journey of near-death experience, being a listener to the call. When I was out in the James Gillen Ranch a couple of years ago, I was there, and a woman comes up to me, and she says to me, not what is your name, who are you? And I found that very odd at first, because most people would say, what's your name? Chris, John, Joe, Stephen. But she kept asking me, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? And I said, I'm Stephen Sindoni. She says, no, who were you in a past life? So I said, Stephen Sindoni. Let's leave it at that. That evening, there were agents all over James Gillen's ranch there in Trout Lake, Washington, and they would, every time I would say something to someone, they would be coming over to hear what I had to say, as though E.F. Hutton was going to speak. I found it very humorous. So I really had to be closed-lipped about, anything. But this individual turned out to be, later I found out, a woman in black, so to speak. And the reason they wanted to know who I was, because they were tracking me from Oregon down to California to figure out how I knew where all these tunnels were, how I knew about these legends, what led me to it, because it couldn't be, how can I find these things if I wasn't the guy, so to speak?
Ah, yeah, I can see that.
And when I realized that, then I knew that I was in control of the destiny, and that John Benjamin Body in the previous life had mentioned in the legend that he had been kidnapped by the Pinkertons and he was almost killed and just nearly escaped with his life going up to the tunnels near Mount Shasta. So I realized that I was reliving my karma from that previous life, and I wasn't going to have any more of that. So once I realized that, I knew it was time that I had to make a choice, stay in California and be killed, or go back to the East Coast. And luckily, I got a phone call that my brother, was coming out of the hospital. I needed to take care of my brother because my mother was then going back to a nursing home, and I had to go back to care for him. And I did that till nearly the time he passed away, which then came out to be that was late in 2009. And we're going to be getting now to the Obama-Osama thing. This is what people wanted to hear. So what happened was I come back from Shasta to New York, and I'm caring for my brother. And I'm looking for a screenplay to write. Wasn't sure, whatever. But someone had told me, Stephen, take a look at this photo of Osama bin Laden. It appears to look a little bit like the president. So I took a look at it. And I go, well, let me research this a little further. So I went in to the Google search, and I found the 5 or 6 photos on Osama bin Laden, and they all kept looking like they were younger and younger and younger. I go, wait a minute, red flag here. So when I saw that, I put it up to my spirit guide. I said, well, spirit guide, tell me what it is I need to do. What would be the convincing clincher for me to have in order to prove this? So what I got the download is that there are only 2 things that would prove it. That's either fingerprints or palm prints. So I said, okay, what are the odds on that? So I Googled it, and the odds was 64 billion to 1. So therefore, I figured, well, if I have a bullseye and the palm prints match, then it can only be Barack Obama. It can't be anybody else. So I then, through using Google Photoshop, put 2 photos together and matched them up, enhanced them to take a look at them because one was grainy. And lo and behold, they matched up. So right after that, I decided that I was going to put out a YouTube video exposing that Barack Obama had posed as Osama bin Laden. And this was in February of 2010. So now my brother is home sickly. And every day I'm going out to get medicine for my brother or taking him to the doctors or taking him outside for air to have a cigarette because he smoked. And I didn't really want him smoking in the apartment. So, because I figured he was sickly, I didn't want him to burn the house down. So I take him to the courtyard. And when I would take my brother out, there would be helicopters. I would take him out on the street. There would be people following me. So my brother started getting paranoid as a result of this. And when he would see the helicopters out the window, he'd see me get nervous. And then he would say to me, he goes, I think our phone is tapped. So here it is, my brother is getting paranoid on me, and I'm giving him his medication, and I'm like saying, my poor brother, this is the last thing that I wanted to happen, yet I had to take care of him. So in the last 3rd week of February, I decided to go into Manhattan. I was going to the public library, and I'm in Midtown Manhattan, and I realize I'm being followed. And I turn around, and behind me is the assistant FBI director, Joseph Damaris of the New York office, standing behind me, making believe that he's looking the other way. So I calmly pulled out my cell phone, took a couple of photos. And as I walked away, I saw a couple of other agents that were watching me. He said, no big deal. You can watch me. I feel blessed. I'm safe today. And as I walked 30 feet further in front of the Penn Station stairway, there was a newsstand there. I look over, and behind me, breathing down my neck, is the FBI director, Robert Mueller himself.
Wow.
So now I know who he is. He doesn't know that I know it's him. So I pull out my cell phone camera once again, and I snap a couple of his photos too, unbeknownst to him. And then I walk across the street, and I left to get on the subway to go back to home because my brother was being cared for by a home attendant. When I got back, I decided I was going to create a flyer, and I did. I said, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create a flyer on the assistant director's photo. I'm going to hang him out to dry. I'm not going to hang out Robert Mueller. I'm going to save Mueller for a later date. So what I did was I made a YouTube movie, I put it up, and then I went to every police station in Brooklyn and put the flyers on every police car and in the precincts, making a joke out of Joseph Damaris Jr., the assistant director FBI officer. I then called the office in New York for 4 days straight, asking him to return my phone call, which he never did. I called Robert Mueller in Washington, trying to do the same thing to find out, why are you following me? So then, in the last week of March, Barack Obama is visiting the United Nations to give a speech. Over my head, as I was on the way to visit my brother in the hospital, there's 2 black helicopters and a third helicopter with a presidential seal on the side of the door. So at that point, I realized, bullseye, Obama's got to be worried, because if my story was BS, Chris, why would Obama have his helicopter over my head? So
Very
now,
strange.
Yeah, now I've got surveillance every day following me all over New York. My phone's bugged. My brother's getting paranoid on me. He's getting more sickly, and I'm trying to hold this all together. So at that point, I'm going to wash some laundry in the building. They had like a laundromat, but the dryers were full. So I needed to go around the corner to a regular public place where you can do laundry, and I figured I'd throw the clothes in the dryer. So I told my brother, have a cigarette in the yard. I will be back. I've had the basket with all the wet clothes in it. As I'm walking around the corner, there was 2 cars waiting for me, and both of them tried to run me over. So I threw the laundry basket at the car, and my brother's underwear fly up in the air. All the clothes are in the air. The car runs the light and speeds away, to get away, so that way I couldn't get the license plate. So I go wash my brother's clothes, and I said to my brother, I said, by the way, I says, I owe you a couple pair of underwear. He goes, what happened to my underwear? I said, long story. Because after they got soiled, from the tire tracks, I figured, my brother needs a couple new pair of BVDs. But I didn't tell him about that. But I realized that, it was getting pretty wiggy. Then in April, I decided, enough is enough. So Nancy Wallace wanted to interview me on the Barack Obama conspiracy. So the morning of the show, I've got like black helicopters outside of my window all day, I guess daring me, not to go on the air. So, showing you how fearful I was, I went on the air anyway. And I said to Nancy, I said, by the way, what did you have for breakfast? She said, I had pancakes, I had some waffles, whatever. I said, well, I had 2 eggs and 6 helicopter flybys, but I'm okay. So I tried to make a joke of it. And so I then went public with that on her show in May of 2000, in April of 2010. After that, I was really getting hounded on the East Coast, and decided I wanted to go back to the West Coast. And my mother had come out of the nursing home, so now she was caring for my brother. We had gotten a home attendant for my brother, so I realized that I was able to leave, and my computer was being hacked. I mean, someone came into the house looking for the FBI director's photos, and so I realized that they wanted what I had. So I knew I had to get rid of what I had, the evidence, because if I have the evidence somewhere, then it's an insurance policy. At some point, they're going to realize it's my trump card. So they luckily they never found it. So I ended up leaving in May or so to come back to the West Coast. And as I went back on the West Coast, I found myself again in August in surveillance. Other attempts of my life. They went through all my clothes. They crashed my computer. I mean, I had spoken to Nancy Wallace at the time. And I told her, I said, she wanted me to do some work for her on the computer. I said, well, you're going to have to wait till I get my computer back, because the men in pink have decided that they want to keep me off the internet. So after that, I decided that I was going to go down to Shasta, one last attempt to start looking for the tunnels and looking for some of the other entrances, which I had maps for, that I knew I had a short window, because in October it would start snowing again, possibly. And I might not be able to visit some of these areas until the following spring. And so I decided to go back to Shasta. When I came back in September, I learned that on that Labor Day weekend, my brother had passed away. And they had to put my brother in a nursing home. because my mother was in a wheelchair. She couldn't care for him. And the fact that I wasn't coming back, they wouldn't allow him to be in her custody. So as soon as he found out that I wasn't coming back, he lost the will to live. He just closed his eyes and died there in my mother's arms.
Oh, man.
So I have to thank the FBI, the CIA, and all these people for my brother's life being cut short before he was 55 or 56 years old. So I took it, pretty difficult, to have a younger brother pass away at that time, and knowing what they were trying to do, I had to say, you know what? God doesn't give you anything that you can't handle. So I realized that, I was just going to bide my time. So the following month in November, I said, you know what? I'm going to hold off to the spring. I'm not going to look for anything. I'm going to camp out in Shasta. I'm just going to spend the winter in spiritual retreats with some spiritual groups that I was involved in. And on November 17th, the FBI director, Robert Mueller, and the assistant went up to Silicon Valley to try to convince Facebook and Google to allow them to put up a back door on their network so that way they can surveil people's computers. So when I read that in the paper, the following day I'm walking on Mount Shasta Boulevard, and there's the assistant director standing right across the street from me, about 30 feet away, with a baseball cap on, watching me. So I'm saying to myself, doesn't this guy learn? In February 2010, I busted him. Now I'm busting him again, on the 18th of November. So I walked directly across the street from there's an Italian restaurant where I was standing in front of a coffee shop. I walked directly across the street to where the Soul Connection was, where my friend Bruce is the proprietor of it. And he's standing there with his baseball cap on. And I walked directly up to him, looked him in the eyes, and I just smiled. So my girlfriend was with me. She says, "Do you know him?" I go, "Yeah." I says, "Yeah, he's from the East Coast." So he looked at me. He nodded his eyes at me like, what are you going to do, So I walked down the street, and I said to her, "Yeah, he's the assistant director of the FBI." She goes, "You got to be kidding." I says, "No." I says, "He's out here now trying to let me know that, he's keeping tabs on me." I said, "But you know what? Be careful what you do, because later on it could come back to bite you. And I'm going to share with you what I mean by that." So I kept that in my memory bank. My brother had just passed away, and I realized that they wanted to bait me. I stayed in Shasta till the spring of 2011, began hiking and stuff. And then again, I was now under surveillance again. I got a little upset. I'll say pissed off, was for lack of a better word. So I told a friend of mine that I was coming to Washington to kill off Osama bin Laden. I was going to come collect the $25 million reward. So what I did was I got on a train in Dunsmuir, California, and traveled to the East Coast. And when I got to a friend's house in the Midwest, I called up the FBI director's office, and I told them that what my name was. I created a YouTube video. This was in the fourth week of April, and that I was entitled to the $25 million reward for information that led to the arrest and capture of Osama bin Laden, because Barack Obama had posed as Osama bin Laden. So 3 days later, I bought my ticket to come to Washington, and this was the last weekend of April. I was to arrive in Washington the 2nd of May, which I think was Monday. They killed off the Osama bin Laden at sea on that Sunday because they knew I was going to get off the Amtrak that Monday and make a big stink to collect the $25 million reward.
Wow. Well, let me ask you this. Why are these people the same? Is it because they're actors? Actors playing? Is it an actor playing both roles?
Well, you have to understand, these people are all from Masonic order. They're playing a game.
Right.
They've been playing this game for hundreds of years, and they've tricked the American people into believing, in the boogeyman. So they get great joy out of what they're doing to convince people that there was an Osama bin Laden.
Right. But, we do have, I think an Osama bin Laden did exist, because we do have video of him in the late 80s, I think it is.
Yes, late 70s.
Late 70s, walking around New York with a bunch of women in limousines.
Yes, there was an original Osama bin Laden, but after he passed away of kidney problems or liver problems.
Yeah, didn't he pass away in
2001?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
January of 2001.
If you listen to Benazir Bhutto, she did an interview with David Frost, and she said way back then that he died many, many years ago. Next thing you know, she was put under house arrest, and then she was killed like 6 weeks after because she came forward with that information.
They shot her in the middle of the street, didn't they?
Something like that.
Yeah. These are cold-blooded people.
Well, yeah, and that's why this has to come out, and people hearing my story here will think, oh, this is preposterous what he did. You know, I got people who get on the phone with you, people that you know who know of me will tell you that the man who's on the phone right now is telling you the honest-to-God truth because they know me. I put my pants on the same way every day, and I will go further into this as to why he is who he is. And as I said, I then, you know, that last week of April of 2011, I then called to speak to the FBI director himself, Robert Mueller. And I was given his secretary. And I told him the nature of my call and that, you know, I was entitled to that $25 million. And I don't care if you say you killed him off at sea. I can prove that Barack Obama did it. I said, matter of fact, I said, would you like to buy your photos back from me? I'm coming to Washington. I'll take you out to lunch, Bob. Call me back. Bob never called me back. So one of the agents said to me, "Go, what's your name?" I says, "Bob's not going to call me back." I said to him, I says, "Write this down." I said, "When you write the information down, I tell you, you're going to have to make a decision. Do you want to work for these people any longer when you find out that you're working for parasites?" And he goes, "Well, I'm going to check it out." I says, "I'll never hear from you again." I says, "Because one of two things are going to happen. They're going to blow you off, or you're going to take it in the rectum like you would medicine, and you'll go on your merry way like a little puppy, you know." And I realized, you know, I don't know that you have the courage to ask Bob Mueller the question, why am I calling? And I said, I've been under surveillance. I says, I'm not afraid of Bob. I'm not afraid of any of these people. I says, because their story about the bin Laden, you know, killed at sea has got more holes than Swiss cheese, and I can prove that. So this is what I had done. Then in August of 2011, I got the download to follow my hunches, and what I did was I asked Spirit to tell me, who is Barack Obama really? What is his real name? Where did he come from? I asked Spirit. So I meditated, and a friend of mine had saw me do this for 3 days. I went into deep meditation. And I said, usually when I do this, I get the download. So when I got the download, what I asked Spirit and Source, I says, if you give me this information, please give it to me with grace and ease. That way I can prove it without a shadow of a doubt. And that way I don't get hurt because I want to be around for my 90th birthday. So I got a green light. Sometimes I get auditory, or sometimes I'll get a symbol. So I got a green light telling me you're going to be okay. Then my guide Kenny came in, my brother from Lemuria, and he told me, he brought in my grandfather and my brother, and they said, go for it. You know, we're proud of you. And then my relatives came in, and they gave me a red rose, which signified, you know, to me that I was legitimately dealing with the other side, and I realized I needed to do this. So I then spent 3 days after that researching who Barack Obama was. And what I found quite interesting enough, he had spent nearly $2 million in court, so he wouldn't produce his birth certificate. So I noticed the original birth certificate that he had produced was a laser version of it, that there was no laser in 1961. But interesting enough, when he came to origin of the father, and instead of saying black or Negroid, it said African. I go, wait a minute. Even a third grader would know not to put that there. So that there was a total red flag for me that I was going in the right direction. I then kept digging, and I was able to find out that Barack Obama's birthplace was in Thailand, and his father was King Bhumibol Adulyadej, and his mother is Queen Serikit of Thailand. So they've gone out of their way to really make the American people believe that he was born in Africa. But after I did all my research, if you look at photos that I have up on the whatthefug.webs.com site, he looks exactly like his mother. He looks like his brother. I mean, he doesn't have Afro-American features whatsoever. His dome of his head is an Asian. He has no eyelashes. I mean, I could pick this out very easily because I'm outside of the box. And so what I did is in the third week of August, I went on Nancy Wallace's show and I revealed, that, and I had a video out there called Obama's True Identity Reveal Final Cut. And I actually showed who his parents were and how they did this.
Well,
and, I studied.
I have to ask you this, though, Stephen. What difference does it make whether he was born in Africa or Thailand? The point is that he's not a natural-born American citizen, as the Constitution states, and therefore he has no power in the presidency. But why would they go out of their way to make it look like he was from Africa when he was really from Thailand? But either way, it still proves the point that he doesn't have any power here.
I'll tell you, Grasshopper, I'm glad you asked. It's about opium. In 1947, the United States government with Dulles and George Bush Sr. put into power Bhumibol Adulyadej in Thailand. They had him kill his own brother to ascend to the throne of Thailand. They then put in place the Crescent Triangle drug opium network. And our government was in Vietnam for 10 years, even before they even let the American people know that they were there, setting up the drug network. The drugs then went to Thailand, distributed in factories, and then shipped from there to Germany to be distributed in all the pharmaceutical products that find themselves on shelves today with the help of the FDA. Barack's brother, Vajiralongkorn, has been in Germany all these years as an overseer of all these drugs, so that way they arrive in Germany successfully. So, and the money gets funneled. And here's the funny thing. There's 3 banks in the United States that deal directly with the Thailand banks. Because Barack's father is the king of Thailand, all the money can be laundered in Thailand and then distributed everywhere around the world. And the reason why they wanted Barack was to keep a second generation of the drug running going between him and his brother. And the reason why the father and mother agreed to allow Barack to do this impersonation, because Barack is the younger brother. And in history, 2 brothers always fought for the ascension of the throne. The father had killed his brother, and the father knew that Barack and his brother would at one point kill each other. So to make it easy, they created this scenario. So that way now, not only could they continue the drugs running in for the last 40 years, they can have Barack ascend to the throne of the United States and keep the drug money going, and then he could write laws, bills, and all the money could be funneled directly to the Thailand banks, and the United States people get bilked in the process.
Well, do we even need Barack Obama in office, though? I mean, the Bushes were doing a great job of that. The Clintons were doing a great job of that. It's been a total drug-running scheme.
Well, when you realize that there are even planes that crashed in Mexico a couple months back, CIA planes with hundreds of pounds of cocaine that left Guantanamo Bay, that ended up all over the country, you realize that these people are corrupt, and the American people need to wake up and put their foot down.
Right. No, I agree with you on that. Now, let me ask you this. I remember YouTube videos circulating in 2008, right before Barack Obama became president, showing the similarities between Osama bin Laden and Barack Obama. Now, those videos were automatically written off as disinformation. So why do you think they did that? It seems like everybody that comes across this information calls it disinformation. Is it a campaign to hide the truth and therefore using memes and logical fallacies? If you talk about this, you're automatically talking about disinformation.
Exactly. I mean, you think about it. If you were to tell your friends this theory, even your friends would like a hard time to buy it. So they make it that people are pitted against each other, just trying to come out and tell what their observations are and the truth. So this has been a propaganda that's been set up to separate the American people and divide them from being able to see the forest through the trees.
I agree with that, yeah.
Now,
we run into the same problem here. Recently, there was some federal involvement in some of the quote-unquote patriot radio stations. And we brought this to light, and of course everybody jumped on the logical fallacy, oh, you're infighting. Well, we're not infighting when we're revealing federal involvement and people going to jail. But they have people brainwashed like that.
Exactly. Well, I'm about to give you a big tip. Now, you're in Texas, right?
We're in Texas. We're in Colorado now.
All right. I'm going to give you a major brainstorm. I'm going to give you a couple here in the last half hour, I guess, is if you were in Texas, there was a great football player, offensive lineman by the name of Mark Tuinei, who played for the Dallas Cowboys, Hall of Famer. Are you familiar with him?
I don't really follow sports too much.
Well, the man was a big football player, Hall of Famer, but mysteriously in May of 1999, Tuinei was killed, and he was found in his car dead of a heroin and ecstasy overdose. Now, what was interesting about this is that they ruled the death an accident, but Mark Tuinei was going to return back to be an offensive line coach for the Punahou High School back in Hawaii, the same school that Barack Obama claimed that he went to, that he was a basketball player on. Now, the reason why this is significant because Mark Tuinei played on the basketball team. He was not only an all-star basketball player, he was a shot put champion in the state, and he was also the prep lineman of the year as a senior in that school. Now, Barack Obama, they've got photos photoshopped showing him as number 25 in some photos. You can look and find them on Hoax of the Century. The person who was really in that photo is a man by the name of John Kamana, who is an Afro-American who very much looked like Barack Obama, who wore the number 25. Now, I don't know if anybody who follows sports, but once you're given number 25 in school, that's your number. For Barack Obama and John Kamana to have the same number, something is fishy. So when Tuinei was supposed to return to Hawaii to coach that school in 1999, they had to take him out because that would have revealed Barack Obama as a phony and a fraud.
Wow.
Now, to prove my case is very simple. I'm going to give you the men's names who were convicted of the crime. It has happened in Plano, Texas. The police chief, Bruce Glasscock, after the autopsy was released, said that this was Tuinei's first experience with heroin. Now, how could the police chief commissioner know that this was the first time Tuinei had ever done heroin?
Right.
Well,
right.
The man's 15 years in the NFL, 330 pounds, strong as an ox, never took drugs. And there were 4 individuals who were rounded up who worked for a drug ring that allegedly provided Mark Tuinei with a lethal dose of heroin. These 4 individuals, I'm going to give you the names, that were sentenced in Sherman, Texas. The names were Julian Solis Perez, so he was given 11 years. Andres Milan was given 11 years. Fabian Ramos was given 12 years. So by my calculations, these 3 men should be getting out shortly. If this was 1999-2000, then they're soon to be released. But by me telling you this, Perez, Milan, and Ramos might be dead ducks because, but based on what I'm saying, if we got these 3 people to talk, we find out that they know why Mark Tuinei was killed. The 4th man who was convicted, Jesus Carbajal, was given a life sentence. So in Texas, there is a man who was killed, and these guys were charged with it, and they were all charged with and convicted for conspiracy to distribute heroin and cocaine. They were railroaded. And in my firm belief that if this case was reopened, Mark Tuinei's killer would be revealed. And how I got this was the other day when I was going to do your show, I'm looking at my research notes, and I was researching Punahou High School, and the name Mark Tuinei came up, and that he was a former alumni of that school and a basketball player, and I realized he was on the same varsity basketball team. And then I went to the bathroom, and I got the hit from Mark himself that he was killed because of Barack Obama.
It's funny you mentioned Plano. That's where we used to live.
Okay, well, there's no coincidence in any of this, Chris. Now, I got another one for you, and this is Dead Men Tell No Tales. In November of 2007, you can all check this all out, There were 3 homosexual members of Obama's Reverend Right Church that were killed all execution style within 40 days of each other. There was the 47-year-old choir master Donald Young, Larry Brand, and Nate Spencer. All of these men was rumored to have gay relationships with Barack Obama. Donald Young's mother went public and said her son was killed to keep the secret that Barack Obama was openly gay and that he was a member of the Reverend Wright's Down Low Club for black gay men, and that another fellow journalist in May of 2008, Wayne Madsen, had a bombshell revelation about Obama's membership in a Chicago gay club called Man's Country. And it was also reported at that time.
I try to veer off of people's sexuality because, in my opinion, it's the most personal liberty that a person has. And what they do with their body, and so it's really, in my opinion,
I don't care how you have sex. I just care about whether you're a good leader or not.
I mean, that seems like a rabbit trail to follow because there's so much more corruption to expose somebody on than sexuality.
Well, let me ask you this: when you have sex with somebody, should they be found face down with a bullet in the back of their head?
No, absolutely not.
Well, he should be convicted and tried if this can be proved. Am I correct?
You are correct on that, yes.
It's not about sex. It's about murder, my friend.
Okay. Very good. I'm glad we cleared that up.
It's murder. Murder, she wrote, baby. Murder, she wrote. And I got another one for you. Out of all the research I've done, there's never one mention of Barack ever having one girlfriend. Now, it's not a gay thing, but it's interesting that the only one was Michelle. And so it stands to reason that Barack is a liability as a closet homosexual, as our president, along with being someone who posed as Osama bin Laden and someone who's born to King Bhumibol of Thailand. And here's another last tidbit for you. Teddy Kennedy knew that Barack Obama posed as Osama bin Laden. He was asked after Obama's victory about it. He said, why don't we ask Obama? But no one took him seriously. Teddy Kennedy broke one of the cardinal rules of the Freemasons, and that he let out the secret. On the day of Barack Obama's inauguration, you can check the facts, my friend. After Barack Obama got inaugurated, there was a luncheon held in his behalf. At that luncheon, Teddy Kennedy, who appeared to be in good spirits and good health, was poisoned. And then he was taken to the hospital, had convulsions, and John Kerry took him to the hospital. Skull and Bones guy John Kerry.
Yeah, that's...
I read this information. I then had Teddy Kennedy come into me to tell me, Stephen, I was poisoned. I said, okay, I got it, Teddy. I got it. I put the story out in November. In December, John Kerry mysteriously has a nice set of black eyes. Someone came into my apartment in December and tried to find whatever information I had because they wanted to probably know who leaked the information that Teddy Kennedy was poisoned.
Wow.
Now, I am going to go on the record now and ask now for the members of Congress to come forward and tell the truth. We'll give them the opportunity. Washington, D.C. is like London Bridge. It's coming down. The American people are going to be asking for all of their resignations because they all know when they see my video there, it's pretty obvious that Barack Obama did what I say he did. I've had palmists contact me. I have had people proficient in Photoshop. I've got people from high school, all walks of life, look at what I've shown them and said, Stephen, this is indisputable. It's time right now that Barack Obama does the right thing and resign. I ask also the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, to begin impeachment and get rid of this parasite now before the American people now are forced with another war in Iran about some make-believe weapons of mass destruction that do not resist. And the President-elect Barack Obama should go back to Thailand and not forget to bring his teleprompter with him because he might need it. It might come in handy when he goes back to his homeland in Thailand. Well, and that's how serious I am. Now, on a final thing here, I mentioned the Assistant Director of the FBI, Joseph Demarest. I called yesterday to his office, and I left my name, my phone number with his assistant and the site whatthefug.webs.com. He called me back today, which I told you. I want to share this with the public so that way they're aware of my situation. He calls me back, and he said, have we ever met? I said, yes, we've met. I said, February 22nd, 2010. He goes, really? He goes, where? I said, you were watching me in front of Madison Square Garden. I've got your photos. They're on the internet. I says 30 feet away was Robert Mueller, the assistant director as well. He goes, what's this what the fuck? I says, that's evidence that Barack Obama posed as Osama bin Laden that you're very well aware of, because when I went public in 2010, that's why you were following me that day. He says, well, he goes, well, who put up this website? I says, I put up that website. I'm the one who did all those photos. It's coming from me. He says, well, I'm going to have an FBI man call you. I said, who's going to call me? He goes, well, I'll get back to you. I says, no. I says, before you hang up, I says, I'd like to give you some advice. Think wisely, act accordingly.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, with the technical problems. Wonderful. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to disconnect and reconnect real quick with you, Stephen. And it's been happening all show, so we'll try to beef up security, bring more heat, pull an NWA, man, fuck the police.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Stephen, are you back?
Okay, what point did we not get?
Right when I started talking, you started cutting off, so go ahead.
Okay, so
you were going to have the FBI. You told him. I need to tell you something right now, because he was telling you the FBI agent was going to call you. Some FBI agent was going to call you.
Yeah, he was trying to put me in fear. So I said, listen, I want to give you some advice. Think accordingly, act wisely, and proceed rationally, because Barack Obama is going to be prosecuted. He's going down. And you, my friend, if you're involved, I'm taking you down too. He hung up. I immediately got on my computer. I went on my whatthefug.webs.com site, and I put up his photos, and I put up his comparison photos for people to see. And I am not afraid. I'm expecting no one to come visit me. I don't expect them to come, because I don't think they have the courage to confront me.
Excellent. Looks like we're coming up to the end of the show. We've got about 7 minutes left. And is there anything you want to leave the audience with?
Well, if they want to know more, they can go to my website, youtube.com/webflixguy. I have another site on dailymotion.com/webflixguy. They can go to youtube.com at Sindoni Productions for conspiracies. If they want to see the complete Barack Obama deception, go to whatthefug, whatthefug.webs.com. There's also a DVD available for $19.95 with shipping and handling for the hoax of the century. I'm as serious as you can be. I've got 3 sites on Stick'em, Livestream, and Ustream called What the Fug, WhatTheFug. I will be live streaming. If you want to know about Hollow Earth, I've got the hollowearth.webs.com site for research on legends. If you want to know where to find places, you can find them, StephenSindoni.webs.com. And lastly, to let people know, if people go to North Bay, right above Baffin Bay, near Greenland, is where they will find the Hollow Earth.
Any plans to go back?
Do I have plans?
Yeah.
Not in this lifetime, because they made this so easy for me to prove that I could convict Barack Obama very easily in the court of public opinion. Unfortunately, I could not convict him in a court of law, because these laws are all screwed up, and they're all set up for them in their British maritime system. So there's no way in this system can that prevail. But truth can prevail in places like your forum and others. So what I've done tonight will allow people to make their own mind, be their own judge, to follow the information. But if I'm right, Paul Revere has given you the message tonight. And remember, what happens from here on in is your choice. So if you choose to accept what it is that they give you, you will be conned and you will be controlled. In my paradigm, I do not participate. And by not participating, I won't engage them. And by me not engaging them, I go forward, and for the grace of God, from God this day forward, go I. I've done what I needed to do here tonight. As I told Nancy, I don't need to do many other appearances. I'll do a couple more, only because Spirit might guide me. But I as I said, have done what I would needed to do to help change the existing paradigm for that way for the children of the future, so they don't have to go to war anymore. No one has to guard the poppy field anymore for these parasites.
Very well said. And your websites for the audience?
My websites can be, for the Obama deception, whatthefug, whatthefug.webs.com. For YouTube videos, you can go to Webflixguy, WEBFLIXSGUY, or dailymotion.com, Webflixguy. Or my main site is on YouTube, SINDONI Productions, Sindoni Productions. You can go and find me on Stick'em, Livestream, and Ustream. What the Fug on all three of them. I'll be live streaming this whenever I get the whim to do it. And if you want to know about Hollow Earth, you've got hollowearth.webs.com. You want to purchase something there, you can. That would helps me survive. And there's stevensindoni.webs.com. There's another site where I've got other things that I am offering as well. I live off the kindness and generosity of others based on the information that I put out there. I have to be the Lone Ranger, and as a result of that, I have to be the free sovereign being that I am. So I encourage anyone that if there's something that they want, please feel free to purchase it, because that is the way that I go forward in this life.
We're right there with you. We all need support to keep doing what we're doing. And people have asked the question, who do we support? We can't support everybody. And I always tell them, support whoever resonates with you the most. Mm-hmm. That's all we can do. We really appreciate your time, Stephen, and looking forward to having you on the show again if you have some free time in a few months from now.
Well, if we'll look at it at that time, we'll revisit it. But as I said, your story was one that compelled me because of the situations that you were going through, and I realized that I needed to come on there to at least validate your work that you're doing and commend you for the fine job that you and Sherry are doing, and I hope at some point that I meet you, if not on this side, on the other side, so I can shake your hand, my brother.
You're too kind. We feel the same way, but you know what? We're just the vessels. That's it. We're just the vessels. We're not doing anything except for tapping into the truth frequency, and the rest just follows.
Well, may the truth be with us. That's all I can say.
Definitely. You have a great evening.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, Steven Sindoni, stevensindoni.web or webs. .webs.com. Interesting, fascinating guest, recommended by Nancy Wallace. So we still need to get her on the show to do her 2012 predictions. So we'll see if we can arrange that coming up. We've got a jam-packed show for you this Saturday. And another special broadcast, same time next Thursday. And like I said at the beginning of the show, we're going to try to do the special broadcast on Thursday, 9 p.m. Central from here on out. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We really appreciate it. If it wasn't for you guys listening, this radio show wouldn't even exist because it's only through observation that we're able to create the reality which we see.
Very deep. I love you,
Very
baby.
Deep. Oh, I love you too. And we love everybody out there. Kiss the one you love right now, because you never know when the last time is going to be. And don't forget, Saturdays, 10 o'clock Central, right here on truthfrequencyradio.com. Much, much more to come. Much love to everybody out there.
Love you guys. Good night.
With the renegades, castaways, outlaws to the game like Thomas Paine was. They masquerade us. Who's to blame us? Now set to explode like a hand grenade does. No peace to seize the police, to show peace, unleash beef, no relief, peace. Underneath the beast that lies dormant, forced to use force, taught to use caution. Tossed to the ground like the subliminal blinded, like KRS-One, cause I'm criminal minded. I run with soldiers amongst the vultures, now you're under control, cause you do what they told you. The front lines now, we're living the battle. Slowly I walk